This finale was incredibly disappointing. Go ahead and add me in the comments. I wanted so hard to like this finale, especially since the last episode did a wonderful job of setting it up. What we got was a mix of things that made no sense, leaving me more confused than satisfied. So let's talk about the good of this episode first, because there were a handful of interesting and enjoyable moments. One of the first being the sweet moment between Meaty and Ray, where they make a pinky promise, even adding in an element of comedy by Ray thinking it's a loyalty oath. They also do a good job of having various examples of change and the way others can influence you as a person. From Meaty not fitting into her clothes, Ray insisting he'll be the one to wear the costume when usually that was Kazuki's job. Then Ray refusing to go inside without Kazuki, and even Kazuki decides to charge in the whole way, disregarding his usual sneaking strategy. These are all great examples of how they show change, whether it be Meaty growing up or the influence Ray and Kazuki have had on each other, as their personalities have grown outside of themselves, taking some inspiration from one another, as Ray in the past would have left everyone behind and gone in by himself. There's also some solid animation on this fight between Ray and Ogino. A lead gunman actually shoots the bottles and manages to hurt Kazuki. Then they have this cool breakdancing move to get up and smoothly kick the gun out of his hand. I even enjoyed Ogino's ending, as it was poetic justice. The man that cared about last words would die, not be able to say nor record last words of his choosing. His own last words were, "You can die leaving nothing, just like he," which now he died leaving nothing and didn't even get to finish his sentence. A worthy end for someone that cared so little about people except for their last breath. We even get to see Ray recalling what was important to him in the typical mundane but incredibly important moments. Seeing a character grow is always awesome, but having them acknowledge that growth and look back on it is even better. We can see the key moments that have led him to be who he currently is and what fuels his conviction to make the decision he ultimately makes. They even throw in little comedic moments, such as Anna aggressively playing piano. Regardless of how anyone feels about the ending, seeing Meaty, Ray, and Kazuki older was great to see. We as an audience have to speculate how a character would turn out in the future, both on an emotional level and physical. We get to see the setting they end up in, having a legal food business, as well as what they look like when they're older. I know I listed out quite a few good things, and just goes to show you how much I really wanted to enjoy this episode. But let's get into the real stuff. Why this ending was so disappointing despite these well done parts. So let's count the terrible plot points and actions that make no sense. First one being they leave Meaty at daycare. They already know the organization knows about the daycare and what Meaty looks like, as it was used as a threat beforehand. They just leave her there alone, which is a terrible idea. You wouldn't think they would take that risk, especially since Meaty's mother just died. Then Kazuki shows up with Ray. How was there not a shoot on site for Kazuki? The organization made it clear that they were going to get rid of everyone Ray cared about, as they only needed Ray alive. I actually don't have an issue with Ogino shooting the car instead of them. I think it makes sense for the character since he cares about last words. I just think the character is poorly constructed, but we get back to this later. This scene right here was just funny. They show him shooting the legs and yet they die or get knocked out. At this point, just have the animation show the enemy they're dying. Don't forget the old scream his name while running with a gun. A highly trained hitman like Ray would never do something this ridiculous, especially since there isn't a scene where he wants Ogino to confess or repent to his crimes. Even if we believe it's because Ray wanted to talk to him, he wouldn't rush at him with a gun to make that happen. More so, Ray knew what type of person Ogino was and knew he would never be able to talk to him. Speaking of Ogino, he says he has no words for traitors and that talking is meaningless, yet it never shuts up. Again, very inconsistent character. And right here, I know stormtroopers are bad, but he is literally on the floor and doesn't get grazed. Usually I can say I'm being petty, but not even a graze? Come on. Elite gunman lets Kazuki run right in front of him and then can't hit his legs. In the good section, we saw he was able to snipe multiple bottles out of the air, but he couldn't do this? Ridiculous. Here, he fell straight back, didn't turn or anything. A human wouldn't fall like that. If they had pushed him back onto something and then Kazuki or Ray had said some words to him, that would have been a million times better ending than what we got. This just left a sour taste in my mouth. Also, how did he get stabbed in the neck and then not go all the way through? Then, the only sign of the fire was this small amount of black smoke outside of the building, even though there was a huge explosion in the kitchen. No smoke in the hallway, no extra pressure for the main characters, just acting like nothing happened. Even here, the building could at least be on fire instead of having this smoke. This right here was one of the worst moments. Even if he couldn't use his right arm again, he could be a fine killer without it. The boss not killing Ray at the end was believable, since we heard before that he cares deeply for Ray, so I actually had no issue with that. My issue is that he was crazy enough to say, yeah, go kill a little girl and her mother that are innocent, but just lets Ray go like it's nothing. If Ray was supposed to be the leader of the family, he wouldn't need to go out killing for himself, as I'm sure Shigeki, his father, was not out in the field, so it just doesn't add up. The only straw there to grasp is in seeing Ray's determination. He gave in, giving him the chance to have a real family. But let's stop it. He raised him as a killing machine for years, but this small scene gave him that much of a change of heart. Even if it did, they did zero leading up to that and showcasing the change of heart in this man, so that's just poor foreshadowing. The singing, just joking, it is bad singing, but it's children, so they get a pass. And finally, the ending was the last egregious part. They showed 10 years later, and other than seeing them older, this was a weird way to end it. We don't get Meaty find out her mother is dead. We do see that the organization ended up leaving them alone. Assuming there isn't a second season, this is unsatisfying, but an okay ending. If there is a second season, unless it's immediate in high school, which would be weird since they have been doing honest work and the whole job was that they were a hitman, then this makes no sense. It destroys any and all tension. It didn't change the characters' dynamics or learn more about the characters. Sure, it tells us Race only makes one dish and they manage to get out, but it kills viewers' imagination and discussion. This felt like an unnecessary happy ever after that a simple "you're safe now" could have achieved. Overall, I can't say this ending was satisfying or good. Stories don't need to wrap up nicely. There's so many oddities and inconsistencies in the story that it made this hard to watch. Let me know what you all thought of the ending. If you enjoyed it, why? And if not, why not? This has been Anime Disrobed, and Buddy Daddies season finale has officially been disrobed.